Hello, I am Meryl van der Merwe. Welcome to this session on how to start a math club. But before we start, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I spent most of my life in South Africa, and we had our 4 children there. But when the oldest was 12 and the youngest was 3, we moved to Tennessee, and at that point we started homeschooling. My children are now all grown. The youngest just started college this past year, but I have loved homeschooling so much that I'm still involved with the homeschool community. I coach some of the local homeschool teams in some academic contests, and I also teach at our local co-op, and I teach online at fundafundaacademy.com. And I have a podcast, Homeschooling with Technology, which you can find anywhere that you normally find podcasts or online at homeschoolingwithtechnology.com. So, introductions behind, let me just say that I've always loved math, even though I have never studied math at college or done anything beyond high school math. I just enjoy the challenge of math. While I was at school, I found math relatively easy, and I loved the fact that there was a specific answer. So it wasn't like history or English, where you weren't too sure what the teacher wanted. If you could work the problem correctly, you knew you would get the points. So when I started teaching my own children, I loved teaching them math, and I think my enthusiasm for math spilled over, and none of them were really daunted by math, and so we didn't have the problem of hating math in our house. However, my youngest daughter, our youngest child, was also fairly lazy. She didn't have any problem with math, but she wouldn't push herself to try and do better, and she definitely would not just of her own accord tackle problems that were a little hard. So when she was in middle school, I came up with the idea of starting a math club. It was really just a ruse to get her to do more math. But it turned out that many other children in our homeschool community really benefited from her laziness. And she did actually keep extending herself, and it was definitely worthwhile. I had a lot of fun in those 3 years too. And so I thought I'd share with you some of what I learned as I ran this math club. So, as I said, I started it because I wanted her to have a challenge. And I knew if I just gave her a book of math problems that were challenging, she would not do them. But put her in a social environment where there was some fun, friends her own age, and it's also a competitive environment, because there were many boys in the club, and of course she's a girl, and she wanted to show them that as a girl she could actually get the answers faster than them. And of course they wanted to show her that she couldn't. So all in all, it was good for everybody, and they all tried hard and learned a lot of math in the meantime. And the other thing was, we did actually do a number of contests, and I'll talk to you more about that as we go through this session. And you can find out more about the contests if you listen to my session on STEM contests. But we used the club to prepare the children for the contests. The other reason why you should think of starting a math club is so that your kids and other people's kids can understand that math is applicable to real life, because many of the problems that we'd be working together would be far more real life examples. It just helps children to do math in a more fun and relaxed environment. It helps to break down some of those misconceptions about what math is. So some of the things you need to think about as you plan to start is, first of all, what age group. I would suggest that you don't have a very wide age range, because then it's difficult to actually cater to everybody's needs. For me, it was 6th through 8th grade, and I did have a couple of 5th graders who were really good at math. You could otherwise do it for high school, or you could even do it for upper elementary or lower elementary. The examples of some of the sites and things they used would be better for middle and upper, but I know you'd be able to find similar things for younger children if you did a club for younger kids. The next thing you need to think about is a venue. We did it in my home, and if you have a big enough sitting room area or a big dining room table, that would be a great place to do it. It's nice and relaxed, and the kids don't feel like they're doing school. Of course, you could also use a local library or church hall or wherever else you could find accommodation. It does help if you have a blackboard or a big chalkboard, or for what I used, I hooked my computer up to our TV so that I could show them what I was doing, and we could also access a lot of the online sites together. So just do think through how you're going to do that, even a flipboard, any way that you can sort of work up front and share what you're doing with everybody else. I also used to use my iPad, and I used to work out solutions on the iPad and then throw that onto, using our Apple TV, throw it onto the TV. When you're planning it, think carefully about the content, and we're going to go into more detail, but be sure to try and keep it balanced. And by what I mean balanced, I mean you don't want just fun, but you do want some fun. You also want to challenge them. You don't want everything to be so hard that a child who comes doesn't want to come again, because you're going to have children at different levels of ability and different fears or not fears with math. And so you want some things that are fairly easy and some that are harder. And what I used to do is I used to, for instance, have a set of problems, and I'd say to them, just work it at your own speed, and every now and again we'd stop and we'd do ones that everybody had covered. And that way the children who were slower at math might only do 2 or 3 problems, while the ones who were faster could work ahead. And I'd also have some of the solutions for them so they could check and see, or they'd come and tell me, and I could tell them if they were correct or not, and they could keep moving on. So you need to just think a little bit through how you're going to handle it depending on how many children. I used to sometimes have 10 to 15, and I didn't have any help, so I did have to come up with a plan of working like that. The other thing is, once one student has actually got the solution, then they can always help other students of about their same ability, and they can, you can give one of them the answer key and the rest can check with them, etc. So you can use the students to actually help each other too. How long should your math club be? Ours was an hour long because I also had a computer club I was running back to back. I would suggest you probably don't want more than an hour and a half, and even with an hour and a half, you'd probably need a snack break or something to break it up. An hour of fairly hard math is probably enough for most of you, and for you as the coach or the person running the math club, you're also going to be tired by the end of that. Of course, it could also depend. If you're only doing math club, say once a month, you maybe do want to take a 2 or 3 hour stretch. If people are coming from further afield, then just make sure you have plenty of breaks so that your brains don't all fry. I think I used to do it every second week. It's been a while now, but again, just make it work in your schedule. So now coming down to what exactly are you going to do in your math club? I had 3 different areas that I would cover each time we met. The first was math games, the second was math brain teasers, and then thirdly was the more serious, harder math problems, preparing them for contests, or if there was no contest coming up, just challenge math is perhaps how I would phrase it. So let's start off and look at some of the games I played with them. The first game that I really liked is this game called 24. Back in South Africa, they used to have the 24 game in the Kellogg's cornflake boxes, and they used to be like on the back of it. They would have problems, and I'll show you a card now if you're not familiar with these. And we used to love to do them. I didn't really love cornflakes, but I did love the games. So what happens is you have a number of cards. Pick up your card, and they actually have numbers on each side, and you'll see there will be a handout with this, and you can take a look at links to actually buy these online, and you will see that you can actually have integer ones, and there's various different versions that you can buy depending on the age group you're looking for. But you have 4 numbers, and the children have to figure out how to reach the number 24 with these numbers. You can multiply, divide, add or subtract, and the final result needs to always be 24. So I didn't look at this before. I don't think I'm going to be able to just do this on the fly, but you start off and say, okay, 8 plus 6 is 14. Good. Then you could say, well, 4 plus 3 is 12. Well, 12 and 14, 26. No, that's not going to work. So you'd have to try again. 8 minus 6 is 2. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. So you could do that. And you can just there's normally more than one way of doing it, and you see which child can solve it the fastest. I did not like playing this with my own children because very quickly they were a whole lot faster than me and I would keep losing. If you don't want to actually buy it, you can also access a site online that has it's very similar, and it will also give you problems like this. Another game that is similar, I could not find mine. I'm sure I did buy it and I just could not find it anywhere today, is Think Fun has a dice game that is similar. You throw the dice first to actually determine what the target number is, and then you throw, I think it's another set of dice, and those will be separate numbers similar to the ones on the 24 cards, and children have to work out how to use those numbers to get to the others. So it's a very similar concept, and you may want to purchase that instead, or as well as. Then another fun math game is Set. This one is geometric patterns. It has a purple box, which now no longer seems to exist in our house. It took me a while to find this. But this, I'll show you what happens. You take the different numbers and different cards, and you lay them out. I think it's about 12, I'm not sure, the rules will tell you, but you lay these flat on the table, and then you have to try and find matches. You have to try and find sets of 3, and the way you do it is you've got to find 3 cards that have one thing in common, but everything else is different. So you can see these 3, actually these 3 would be a set too. It's hard to actually describe these rules. You'll have to go and look at them, but these are 3 different numbers, but then they've got the same colors and 3 different amounts. We've got 3, 2, and 1. They're all triangles and they're all solid. But this would also be a set. Let me show you here. Here we have these 3. They're each just one item, so that's what's the same. But they are different shapes. And one of them is solid, this one. One of them is empty. And one of them is striped. This one is striped. Not so obvious to see. So these also, and they're all different colors. So these would also make a set. At the beginning it's hard, and your kid's probably going to catch them faster than you and beat you. But eventually you'll be able to start to see them too. They also have an online version of this. And I'm going to now take you over onto the web and show you the online one that you can do. So here you have a daily puzzle with sets that you can come on. You can see here there are set puzzle rules that you can access, and you can learn to play it here. I have already taken a look at this today, and I've already forgotten. Oh, no, wait, there we go. I can see one. So, oh wait, you click on each one. These 3 are a set, and you can see it's correct because it puts it over there, because they are all the same color and they're all solid. So yes, they can actually have 2 of the things the same, but they're all different too. In fact, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and they're each different shapes. So I know I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, and I today found 5 of these. Still didn't find the last one, but this would be a fun way to start. Sorry, I have a cat now coming to help us do math. Then, once we'd finished playing math games, we'd actually move on to math brain teasers, or if you didn't have enough time for both, we'd do one or the other. And I'm going to show you 3 of the sites that I used. Here's the one, and again, these will all be in the handout, called Math Brain Teasers. What's nice about this one is it shows you the difficulty. It also shows you how much people like it. You click in and you will get the story, which may or may not come. Here we go. And it gives you the little story, and then you show the answer. So I would put this up on the screen, give everybody a little bit of time to see what they think the answer is. Then I would click and show the answer, and work it from there. Then, and this is another site. This is actually one that I didn't use, but I found it when I was looking for the ones I had been using. And this also looks really nice. Very similar types of puzzles where they come up with different things, and we just do 1 or 2 of these each time round, and you can see the answers are all there as well. And here is a third site, which has, again, different types of math problems that your kids can try and solve. And all of these do have solutions, so they work really well to to do. You don't have to wonder if you've got the answer right or wrong. I also have gathered over the years a number of books, and so I'll show you some of the ones I've used. Brain Math was also Brain Teasers. You can see it's just like got one brain teaser per page, and again there are solutions. What I would do with this is perhaps I would give the book to children who'd finished everything else in advance and tell them to work through a problem, or I would describe the problem or draw it up and then share it with everybody, or just even take a picture on my phone and then show it on the screen. This was another one. This is stories to solve. So I would read them the story. We do one a week, and they would try and figure out the solution to it. The stories are, I think, about 2 pages long, if I can remember how long they were. Then to move on, so once we'd done sort of the fun stuff, we'd move on, it warmed them up a bit, we'd move on to the more serious and competition math. Many of the kids in the group did do math contests. We both had some local contests, and we had some national ones, which you can learn more about in my other session. And some of these actually had material that came with it. Some of them you could buy these extra, and then I did over the years. Some of them just had practice problems from previous years, and I'd use those as well. There really is a lot out there. So you don't even have to spend much money. You can find just the free stuff. But this Math Counts, which is one contest, actually has a math club, and if I'm correct, it's free, and they send you a lot of cool stuff, including they send you this book. You can see this is back in 2012-13 when I was doing it. What's particularly nice about this is that they've got warm-up exercises and workouts, but show you at the end here. You can see this page. They actually give you each page like this tells you the difficult level of each problem. So when I was saying at the beginning, try and be balanced, both when you're picking, as I said, you can use some of those online websites that show you which are hard and easy, but here also these tell you the different levels, so you're not just inundating the children with stuff that is so hard they're all going to struggle the whole time, because that's not going to be fun and they're not going to come back. So this with Math Counts, the club actually challenges the students to do various sort of practice problems at home. I'd send them home with them. There'd be sheets, and if they did them, they actually would achieve different status levels, and there were little certificates at the end if they completed everything, and it just really made it all very cool. And at that point we weren't even doing Math Counts, we just used the club, and I was really impressed with the material that they gave us. Math Olympiad was actually a contest we did at the time, and I bought this book. Actually, this may have been the one that had the different levels. I'm also confused between one and the other, but this is another one, and I will have links for all of these things. And you can see this does have problems for elementary as well as for middle school. And even if you have middle schoolers who aren't very good at math, you could give them elementary ones. They don't need to know that, just so they start to feel more secure and that they feel like they can do math. Because what you're trying to do is to make all the kids love math, not just the ones who are good at it. You want everybody to understand the importance and why it's fun to do it. AMC is a contest that my kids did, and our homeschool group still does. This is the high school version, and they do have a math club, and you can buy their materials, and one year I did it, so I had extra materials for that. Art of Problem Solving, you may be aware of their website, and they actually have online math classes, but they also have this book for competition math for middle school, and it covers many of the different math contests, including AMC as well as Math Counts. And finally, there is this cool book called Challenge Math. Again, it's for elementary and middle school, by Edward Zaccaru. I think it's how you say his name. Yeah, Zaccaru at the bottom there. And I'm not very good at holding this in front of the camera, and I used to use problems out of that as well. Sorry, bumping things here. So just finally, in wrapping up, I want to encourage you, first of all, if you're going to run a math club, to be sure to actually work the problems out beforehand. Even if you think you're really good at math, in the pressure of the moment with the kids going, well, show me how to do this, it can be hard to figure things out. So I always made sure I had worked out solutions. I didn't just do them, but I had them with me that I could refer to in the heat of the moment, and so that I could solve it. If you occasionally come up on a new problem, or a child sees another one on the page and wants to try it, and they see you struggling too, that's okay. It's a good thing to see, for the children to see that math does involve struggle, and that's good, and it takes time, and we need to all be struggling and thinking. The other thing is that as the children solve the problems, ask the children to show how they did it, to explain to each other. And you'll be interested to realize that not everybody solves problems the same way. And so I would regularly have children in the group showing how they'd solve a problem in a completely legitimate way, which I hadn't thought of doing. And again, doing this in a group setting shows kids there isn't just one way to solve a math problem, but there are a few different ways. You could also get children to work as groups. Sometimes you can have the stronger ones working with the younger ones and showing them how to do it, or the ones who are not as good. Sometimes you can have people the kids on the same level working together, so that they are tackling problems that are the level that they're actually good with. But whatever you do, even if some of these children never do a math contest, just help to get the idea that math is fun, math is relevant, math does not have to be a nightmare. And so I would really suggest that you try and go out there and start a math club. I did mine free. You could charge a little bit to help defray the cost of the games and perhaps the books that you might want to buy. You could even turn this into a money-making venture if you wanted to. As I said, my purpose was just to encourage my own daughter to do a little bit extra, and it worked. She ended up placing in a number of math contests and went on to high school and did not have any problem with math because she was not at all scared of it and had really enjoyed it. So take a look at some of these resources. They'll all be in the handout. And I'd love you to connect with me if you do in fact start a math club, and just let me know how it's going. You can find me at meryl@fundafunder.com, and the handout will give you some more places to find me as well online.